Hey there, welcome back to another video. Today, just a little factoid in case you weren't aware. The reason that divorce is virtually non-existent in the East and that marriages have such a high rate of success is because of Vedic astrology. That's what is used in its ancient methodologies to match people in the East. Parents hire a Vedic astrologer or have knowledge of Vedic astrology and marks of compatibility within that system in order to arrange marriages with another set of parents' kids. And it's not some oppressive, outdated patriarchal system that is the reason for arranged marriages, contrary to popular woke belief. It's astrology. It operates on the assumption that people are fundamentally different from each other on a personality level from birth, that we are more nature than nurture. And that's true, we are. Everyone has some influence from the environment, whether they're more likely to conform to it or to rebel against it. But one's tendency to do one or the other, to whatever degree it is indicated by natural predispositions. Okay. And of course, a man being a man who has his shit together and a woman being a woman who has her shit together is not enough for two people to actually like each other and for two people to be able to stick it out till the end of life. And that's where personality traits and compatibility between combinations of personality traits comes into play. And for thousands of years, in the Vedic sciences in the East have been studying this, and that is what they use to arrange marriages, and they work because astrological compatibility is not bullshit. Okay. Ironically enough, it's people who argue that arranged marriages are an oppressive patriarchal structure that needs to be done away with. It's those people who are culturally more likely to believe in astrology. Now, whether or not they really get astrology on a deep historical and philosophical level, well, it's not likely if they're actually caught in this contradiction. Whether or not they practice it with any degree of competence or real knowledge is another issue. Okay. But just to point out, there is a little contradiction there in saying that arranged marriages are a patriarchal, oppressive structure, and then saying that you believe in astrology and practicing it, or putting some weight in it to some degree. It's a contradiction because it's astrology that's used to arrange those marriages to begin with. Okay. And that's because astrology, whether you're practicing Eastern or Western, I'm a Western astrologer, not an Eastern Vedic astrologer. But regardless, they both give you a lot of the same information and are very similar when it comes to pointing out those markers of compatibility. Remember, it's the aspects, the angular relationships between planets that are really give us the most information about our psychology, about our perception. And once you really get to know what the aspects are about, that means you're really starting to get astrology. Those happen to be the most important markers of compatibility in compatibility astrology, and also in birth chart astrology. And the aspects also just happen to be the one thing that does not change between your Western chart and your Eastern chart, your tropical chart and your sidereal chart. Regardless of what system you're using, aspects remain the same. The angular relationships between the planets, those deepest parts of our innate perceptions and potential for compatibility with others, those are the things that do not change. Regardless of the system of astrology you're using, and those are also the most important things. So, in fact, when you get down to it, I practice Western astrology. Vedic astrologers practice Eastern astrology. There's a lot of ancient wisdom in Vedic astrology that doesn't really have a conception or an equivalent in Western astrology. But for the most part, if you're doing your job well as a Western astrologer, you can come to a lot of the same conclusions that an Eastern Vedic astrologer will. There are also methods of showing, what phase of life and what kinds of things the person is going through, what level of maturity they're likely to be at. That's through the Vedic dashas. And there's a system for that as well. In Western astrology, although it's not as well developed, or at least, we're in the process of uncovering a lot of that ancient wisdom from the Hellenistic period, and that's called zodiacal releasing. That's kind of an equivalent system, but doesn't exactly carry over in terms of the information it gives us about which phases of life and which kinds of external things are going to be affecting us at a given time. Those things are also markers of compatibility as well. But anyway, compatibility itself, this is the main point, requires, two people to actually like each other. The likelihood that a marriage will work depends on how able two people are to work together. So that requires some shared values, shared personality nuances that flow rather than conflict, that are in enough abundance and strong enough to maintain a relationship. And these are little quirks, little nuances that go beyond simply a man being a man and a woman being a woman. Okay. Also, astrology in all of its forms, if we're being honest, shows us that men and women are very different. So this is another, little bit of evidence that arranged marriages are not patriarchally oppressive. Okay. When it comes to compatibility on a very general level, what matters almost more than anything for a man is the moon. Okay. And the moon represents your relationship to your mother and your relationship to femininity and maternity, and kind of indicates what sort of example your mother set for you in early childhood that you're going to carry into adulthood and ultimately use as a basis of values for looking for a long-term partner, a woman. Okay. Does she have like the same things that your mother set an example for? And if your mother set a bad example, of course, you're likely to, and if you have a debilitated moon of some sort, you're likely to fall into bad habits of attracting partners that do resemble your mother. But at the very least, you can use those experiences, if you're being conscious, if you're spiritually aware, as an example of what not to follow, of what not to look for in a partner. So it is proven and has been over thousands of years, especially in the Vedic sciences, that the moon matters a lot in compatibility, especially for a man. Whereas Jupiter, the planet of abundance and fortune and liquid gains, matters more for a woman, because a woman is looking for a boost in her status, a boost in her fortune and her gains by marrying the right man. She wants to look up to her man. She wants a Jupiterian figure, someone who, has positive aspects to her Jupiter, or at least a positive placement and not more hard aspects than positive ones. Okay. So, of course, challenges can be overcome, but there are markers of incompatibility in astrology that show that too much can be too much. If you have too many hard aspects and too many individually difficult placements or things going on between your two charts, then that can indicate that they're collectively insurmountable and that the relationship isn't going to work, even if on paper, as far as like how men are and how women are, you both fit, your gender roles perfectly well. It doesn't mean you're going to like each other. It doesn't mean that you're going to get along in the day-to-day ways that are necessary in order to make a relationship work in the long run. Okay. So just wanted to dispel of a couple of those myths when it came to compatibility astrology, arranged marriages, where they come from and what they're actually based on. They're based on astrology, and that's why they work. Okay. I can look at two charts and tell you more or less if those people could make it work, if they should try to make it work, or if they definitely shouldn't even have a go at it, because there's just too much negative stuff going on that's not outweighed by the positive. Okay. So, sure, there are going to be difference of opinion from both sides, the naturalists and the social constructionists, but I can tell you, you're both mistaken. Okay. Relationship astrology is a thing, and it's been working for thousands of years, whether you want to admit it or not. Um, and it will continue to. The world needs more astrology, so hit me up for a compatibility reading. It's one of my areas of specialty. You have a good day. Cheers.